Ladies and gentlemen, it is Monday afternoon. Monday morning could be whatever circle you're in, but you know what? We'll go with the East Coast elite time here. This is clock management, or as some of you saw the thumbnail, Brock management. That'll probably tip you off to what we're going to talk about here. But with me, joined Optimus's own good buddy, good friend of the show, Mr. Keith Flemming. My man, Keith. How you doing?
Doing great, man. Excited to talk some ball with you. I've missed our weekly ball conversations that we had last year, so kind of excited to get your thoughts on what's going on. And I know you're like me. You're a nerd. You like the numbers and stuff, so it's always fun to talk that stuff with our fellow nerds, I guess is what you would call it.
Yeah, the nerddom is rising up this morning. They are excited to get, first of all, to get me out of the spreadsheets, to get me into some natural sunlight here. And by natural sunlight, I mean the light coming off of my Elgato, stream lights here. So I guess that's going to have to do. But look, week 9, we got one more game, obviously, Monday Night Football, Cardinals, Cowboys. But a lot happened for the ball knowers here in week 9. But before we get into, I don't want to bury the lead too much, but I will ask you one interesting thing or takeaway from week 9 that does not involve the cover of the thumbnail.
I would go Rico Dowdle. We had been, hearing for weeks that it was going to be a split. It made no sense with the production. Like, again, I'm not a football coach, I'm not an evaluator, but when I see one guy killing it, the other guy doing nothing, I did not understand the split. Well, he got 83% of the carries, 15% target share, both carries inside the 5, which that's obviously huge for fantasy. And now he is averaging 31 points per game and 170 rushing yards in the 3 games he's seen 20 plus touches, which I would assume moving forward that is going to continue. And the Panthers may actually be a playoff contender, which as a Falcons fan, it makes me sick.
It's wild, man. Like, look, Rico Dowdle has been undeniable, and that seems like such a weird sentence to utter. But look, he was the entire offense. Bryce Young had like barely over 100 yards rushing or passing. And, the entire passing game was a non-factor. Ted McMillan had I think 6 catches. But look, it was Rico Dowdle, second in rush yards over expected in total last week, or yesterday, I should say. But he's been doing this, and Chuba Hubbard has been like the running back 1 emeritus. Like, he has been bestowed an honorary title, but, everybody else has known for the last month or so. And not only the fact that he did this, the fact he did this against a pretty good team in the Packers. We saw him do this against the Dolphins. We saw him put 200 yards from scrimmage. And then he did that again against the Cowboys. But now, look, one is an anomaly, 2 is a coincidence, 3 is a trend. So we gotta adjust our priors and welcome Rico Dowdle Nation into our loving arms. And look, he's got to be a locked in high end RB2 going forward for fantasy, certainly. And I'm glad you pulled that up against my Packers, because I did have some choice words on social media. For one, Matthew, I don't know your middle name, LaFleur.
You guys didn't punt and you scored 13 points. That's impossible.
Well, it also didn't help that you had obviously Tucker Kraft. Now it has been confirmed that it is an ACL tear. It's definitely awful. And not only that, Matthew Golden left the game with a shoulder injury. And since we are talking about this, let's just do this before we get into, I'm just going to keep burying the lead, keeping people here before we talk about that, stringing along. We'll be back after these messages from Optimus Fantasy. But, with now it's Romeo Doubs. Now it's Christian Watson without Tucker Kraft. Green Bay has gotten sneakily condensed in their passing game, especially with Romeo Doubs. I did not see that coming, but injuries to Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks hasn't helped anything. Basically, it's been Doubs and Malik Heath and obviously Watson came back 4 targets in each of his last 2 games since returning from a week 18 ACL tear last season. So I know we're not breaking new ground on Romeo Doubs here. But Christian Watson, now with some of this ambiguity with the Packers, like, how are you viewing him going forward? Because I think he's one of the best waiver wire claims. If for some reason he hasn't been picked up, but I do think that some of the target earning is going to have to fall on him, at least in the short term, till Jayden Reed comes back.
Yeah, and he's explosive. His whole deal has been injuries. Like, some people have called him or labeled him like a bust. He's been really good when he's healthy, and he scored a ton of touchdowns, which obviously that's a huge deal, and they need him now. I want to know, though, you're the Packers insider. Is Musgrave going to? I mean, I know obviously he's not Tucker Kraft. Nobody as a dude was averaging 11 yards after the catch, but do you think that he's going to slot into roughly the volume that Kraft was seeing, or do you think they're going to just, throw it to the receivers and maybe even run more than they have been?
I mean, Green Bay's always been an offense that guys kind of fall in line, where it could be a number of guys each week that leads that team in targets. But as we said, it's become kind of a little bit condensed, with Doubs being like the clear top target, along with Kraft. Obviously, Kraft going down kind of puts Doubs at the top of the food chain there in terms of the receiving game. But in terms of Musgrave, like, remember, Musgrave was drafted ahead of Kraft. Now, draft capital kind of be damned. We're more than 2 seasons out here from that. And clearly they hit on Kraft. Now, Musgrave has been hurt a lot too.
Yeah.
But he has not been nowhere near as efficient as Kraft in any sample that he's had. So looking at him to kind of take some volume, I don't know if we're like quite there yet. I want to see it before I like invest anything into it with him. He feels like he's probably like a low end streamer. He feels like, I mean, he's probably in that Sugar Conquo, Kate Otten. Well, maybe not so much Kate Otten because of injuries there, but like that lower end tier of tight. He's probably above the Steelers guys, because he's gonna run routes. He's gonna have routes based upside. So he's gonna run 80 to 85% of routes. They got rid of Ben Sims at tight end, and they've been running. It's basically been Kraft and Musgrave, and then John Fitzpatrick is the blocking tight end. So it's going to condense down to Fitzpatrick and Musgrave, where Musgrave is going to be out there running the vast majority of routes. That said, I don't know if there's upside in those routes because of how Green Bay has to kind of figure it out now with those guys. But at the top, Doubs is unquestioned. But I do think Watson has a good, he jumped into the slot a little bit more when Golden got hurt. So I think that could be interesting, where he's a 6'5", 210-pound wide receiver. If you could throw him in the slot, that you could be cooking with something. But expecting Green Bay to do the right thing, or the thing we want, and then versus what they actually do, is another, can of worms itself. But all right, look, we buried the lead long enough. We've talked about everything else, but our Lord, our Savior, our season-saving King, Brock Allen Bowers. Look, I don't have to bury the lead. Brock Bowers was absolutely phenomenal. Came back. He had a knee injury, missed the entire month of October. Now he's back in November. 3 touchdowns, 13 targets, 12 catches, 127. What more is there? I mean, there's a lot more to say, but take the floor, Keith.
I mean, again, it's just so fitting that we're doing this show, and I don't know any 2 people who were higher on Bowers coming into the league. As a UGA fan, I saw it. Like, I tried to tell people he's too big, he's too fast. And then on top of that, like you saw in that corner, unbelievable one-handed touchdown catch he made, he's got incredible hands. And he is just a beast. First guy since Gronk to have over 125 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns at the tight end position. That's all the way back to 2014. And think how much more tight ends are used now. So, again, that's kind of elite. He's the quickest tight end ever to get to over 1,500 yards. He did it in just 22 games. And if you look at his 8 quote unquote healthy quarters, and yeah, I mean, I'm counting the overtime, but remember, he basically missed the fourth quarter in week 1. So he's played 2 games that he was technically healthy in. In those games, 10.5 targets, that would rank as wide receiver 3. 115 receiver yards, that would rank as wide receiver 2, and 29.3 fantasy points per game, which would rank as wide receiver 1. And remember what he did last year with freaking Aiden O'Connell and Desmond Ritter. And no matter what you think of Geno Smith, he is a significant upgrade to those guys. And I keep telling people, wait till he gets a real quarterback, which I don't think he's ever had since he's been to college. No offense, Stetson Bennett. Bennett's a good quarterback, but not somebody that could really sling it. And again, the thing that I love the most, he doesn't turn 23 until January. This dude's 22 years old. He is a grown man. And I'm so excited to have him back. Like me and you were joking, right before the show that we were watching the Raiders Jags over the Bills Chiefs because we both were so excited to see Bowers. And when I saw that long touchdown where he cut across the field, that was when I was like, okay, he's healthy and it's freaking on now.
Yeah, anytime you subject yourself to having to watch Parker Washington just to watch Brock Bowers, I think you are in absolute sicko territory with that. But yeah, Brock Bowers is the prince who was promised. Look, we got a slow start with the knee injury. Certainly did not look himself. But the fact that he was still by far their best pass catcher, even when hampered, should tell you everything you need to know about Brock Allen Bowers. 84% routes yesterday too. You can probably pencil that in as probably the low end for him, but over half of the air yards yesterday, 54%, almost 10 yards per target for Brock Bowers as well. 3.5 yards per route run. Like Brock Bowers pops in everything that you want. Obviously, the counting stats are fantastic. You still got some matchups there. And look, the Raiders are probably going to crater a little bit. It's just the nature of the beast that the Raiders are basically a Sun Belt team at this point. And then you just add Brock Bowers to that. Like right now, the Raiders are Georgia Southern that just added an All-Pro, like an NFL All-Pro. So good luck with that. But at Denver, the Dallas matchup is fun. Cleveland at the Chargers. They got Denver twice. They got Denver, Philly at Houston. It's not a great schedule, but look, the great players.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. That's the thing. We talk about kingmakers for quarterbacks. We talk about Matthew Stafford. We talk about Joe Burrow. We talk about Drake May. Has there ever been a kingmaker at the tight end position? Because I think Brock Bowers legit might have saved Geno Smith's ass. We're talking about a guy we're waiting for Aiden O'Connell to come back. I've been clamoring for Cam Miller to get off of the practice squad. The 2-time national champion Cam Miller, by the way, from North Dakota State, as somebody that can potentially throw to Brock Bowers. And look, the calls were coming from inside the house all along. Geno Smith is maybe up to the task. So 4 touchdowns. He looked
excited too, man. He looked really excited. Like if you looked at as the game went on and he just started targeting Bowers more and more and more.
Yeah.
Kind of saw Geno and the entire offense come alive, which is what, again, we saw last year. And the great part is the Raiders defense is bad. So even in those matchups versus, some of these defenses, they're probably, good defense, they're going to be down. And they're going to be throwing a lot. And we know that, again, Bowers is going to get a huge share of the pass volume moving forward.
Yeah. And one thing that I don't think is talked about enough is that it's pretty clear to me that going into the season, this plane was going to be built around Brock Bowers. And when everything fell off, there was no direction within the Raiders offense with Geno Smith having to kind of figure stuff out on the fly with Trey Tucker. The fact that the funny thing about yesterday, Dante Thornton was a healthy scratch for real estate mogul Tyler Lockett yesterday. So that's where we are.
Drop a touchdown pass, by the way.
Good. Oh, wow. That was tough. You're asking a 33-year-old former slot receiver to make that play that an ex receiver makes, to kind of go low
That's
for the
fair.
ball.
But it's come on, dude. Come on. That's what they got you for. Come on, Tyler.
I don't know if that's why they got you, but I mean, to each their own. I mean, whenever you have to, your choice is Alex Bachman or Tyler Lockett. I think the choice is somehow clear there. But yeah, Brock Bowers is awesome. I don't think we have to be the ones to tell you that he should be an every week starter going forward in fantasy. This is because I did want to talk about Washington as well. Galaxy Pickers does ask, what do we do with JCM? Insane disappointment. I mean, a lot of that ties to the injuries in the wide receiver room. There's no threat to kind of balance out everything with Washington. I mean, I think honestly, the entire Washington offense right now, obviously without probably Jaden Daniels for now. I mean, the MRI was negative on his dislocated elbow. It did, yes, I did see that, but I think it's probably still a week to week thing. So we're probably looking at Mariota for at least a week. Because where we're at right now, Detroit at Miami, and then they're bye. So maybe those 2 games. I mean, Debo is like okay. I guess you have to start him, but obviously Terry McLaurin goes down with re-aggravates the quad injury. All of those young guys, they trot out 97-year-old Chris Moore to run routes. 98-year-old Zach Ertz has been out there, and it's not a good it's not a good environment as a whole. And I think even with as far as Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt being efficient at times running the ball, it's a trickle-down effect, because if you can't do anything in the passing game, defenses are going to creep up and not respect it. And that's what we're seeing now with the run game, which has been completely ineffective for the last 2-3 weeks now.
It's also all year, and this is where I made the mistake at the time. I thought I did, telling everybody to drop JCM when he had those 2 horrible games that Mariota started. But when Washington is up, he's actually been very good, and he's on the field a ton. When Washington is down, he's been very ineffective and not used nearly as much. So I think that, unfortunately, without Daniels, depending on for how long, it's not going to be great for him. It's just not. And this is, I think, the season from hell team. I mean, they have had injuries on top of injuries on top of injuries. I don't know if it would have mattered, with how good the Eagles are. I think Dallas is going to continue to outscore some teams, but I mean, even the Giants are frisky. I do feel bad for Washington fans, because they had all this hope going into the season. I was one of them. Jaden Daniels was incredible, but the one thing I was concerned about, and that's why I kept saying "but," was he's not a big guy, and he took a lot of hits last year. They were pretty fortunate that he did not get injured.
Right.
And we've seen this year, what is this already? The second, third time he's been hurt in the game.
Yeah, like just on the outside, like if you're looking at the roster right now, like who scares you in this offense? Like this I mean, we're looking at a bunch of guys, and this is obviously built around Terry McLaurin. This is built around Debo to kind of win now. Those are older guys. Like Debo is, if he's not 30, he's on the cusp. And I think same with McLaurin.
Older 30-year-old too, is that, all those rushing carries and stuff he got in San Francisco. Like Debo's got some miles on him, I feel like.
He definitely does. And then, you came in with Austin Eckler being a key piece, and then Zach, like this is the oldest team in the NFL. And then, you're asking Jaden Daniels to pull a rabbit out of a hat twice. He basically did it last season, on the Commanders playoff run, beat the Lions in the divisional round, and then had to go up against the Eagles in the championship game where that run ended. But, obviously it was great to see Daniels kind of do that and seeing what kind of upside he has. But at the end of the day, like, none of these young guys have stepped up. Like Jalen Lane has looked the best, and even he hasn't looked that great.
Where's Vince not? A lot of people liked him. Like he's not even getting on the field.
No, because he's a fullback. He's John Bates' direct backup, and John Bates does everything as far as like blocking and stuff that teams want. Like he's a guy that's going to be around for like another 10 years, like Eric Saubert. That's just, you don't ever think about it, but the dude cards out of a 12-year NFL career. That's basically John Bates. But yeah, you've got all these guys that are just either old, or the young guys that you do haven't really shown anything to believe in them. Like they took Robbie Chosen out of mothballs a couple weeks ago. and ended up giving him like 50% of the routes. Like that's where we are with this team. It's not great. And I don't want to start, even Debo. I don't want to start any of these guys if I don't have to, just because the entire environment, and it sucks to say, is toxic just because of the quarterback stuff. Like I don't want to really, do I want Marcus Mariota's second target and Zach Ertz when I could start, I'd almost rather, I don't want to say, I think it's a little far flung to say I'd want to start Luke Musgrave, but I think the thought is there where what are you getting when you start Zach Ertz? 4 catches for like 26 yards. Like that's where we're at with this team. But yeah, it feels like the Patriots when Jacoby Myers was there. Like, yeah, we'll get the volume and low upside playing Debo, but that's really it. And that is a low upside. You're just hoping he scores a touchdown. He feels very Stephon Diggs-ish right now, but I would say much lower.
Robinson.
Right. But even Debo doesn't PPR scam like Wandale. That's the thing.
True. Yeah.
But speaking of, we'll kind of bounce around here because I know, the Giants, obviously no Neighbors. Now they no Scatterbo, so this offense is kind of a shell of what they were. Wandale is really only the top. I guess Theo Johnson too, if you're into that. But Jackson Dart looks really interesting, and I just don't know what his upside is and what he can like pull out of this Giants offense in terms of, can he get some plays downfield? Can he make, Darius Slayton's okay, but they unearthed Ray McLeod from Atlanta. Atlanta barely plays 11 personnel anymore, so McLeod was expendable. Comes out run 92% of routes yesterday. Like I don't know if they're holding open tryouts right now, like they did a couple years ago, but like all of this is like not super great for Jackson Dart. But even then, it feels like Jackson Dart, he has something that you're gravitating to. But at the end of the day, you have to it's like the duality of man where, you want to start Jackson Dart, but then you're like, well, what can he really do with this cast of this weapons?
Apparently a lot, though. I keep telling people it's gross, and I understand that, but he was one of my favorite DFS plays this last week. They keep accounting the 2 games that he literally played a handful of snaps. In the games he started, this dude has now scored 18.6 points or more in every single one of them. There's not too many quarterbacks do that. His points per game average as a starter is now up to 23.5. Like that is literally up there with Allen and them. Like for this week on DK, he was 5th if you take actually his points per game heading into this week as a starter, but he was the 14th most expensive quarterback. And the reason he's doing it reminds me a lot of Bo Nix and, Jalen Hurts and these other guys early in their career. He's now averaging over 9 points per game with his legs. He scored a rushing touchdown and thrown a passing touchdown in 5 of 6 starts. Like, I think Dart is going to be very much like Bo Nix by the end of the year. It wouldn't shock me if he's like QB8, QB7, and I actually think the Giants defense being so bad is the real elixir, right? Because yesterday was a prime example. They were down. He was having a bad game. I was going, damn it. Of course, when I go all in on Dart and my DraftKings lineup, this is the week he does not score points. And then the next thing you know, you look up, he's got 25 plus points, right? So I think there's going to be a lot of that the rest of the way. And he, again, like Theo Johnson, like he throws the tight ends a lot. Theo's actually become sort of a guy. I think Darius Slayton is the receiver that you could see. And overall, I've been really impressed with him just as a quarterback. Because, think about it. He lost Malik Neighbors. He's lost Scatterboo. Like, I feel so bad for Giants fans. Joe Matz is one. Like, it feels like they can't have anything nice without it getting hurt. And literally, that is Joe's main concern rest of the season. He's like, just please, dear God, let Jackson Dart get out of the season alive. And I worry with a coach that is fighting for his livelihood. You see the way he's running Dart, like design runs. I hope that he doesn't get hurt, but I feel safe starting him. Like I said, there's only like 6, 7 quarterbacks that I don't care, like without knowing the matchup or whatever, I would start week in and week out over Dart right now. Because again, you talked about, 1 game, 2 games, 3 games. That's a trend. We're talking about now 6 games for Dart. And again, he's been really good fantasy wise in all of them.
Yeah, and there's looking at his schedule at Chicago, Green Bay, at Detroit, at New England. They have their bye in week 14, but Washington, Minnesota, Las Vegas. That could be fantasy championships could be won on the legs and arm of Jackson Dart. And it seems wild to say. But I might, and there's one,
That
I
was
think
Bo
there's,
Nix last year, right? Like people did.
yeah,
Like, remember on the waiver wire show, we were literally for weeks telling people, go pick up Bo Nix. Like, why is he not 100% on? Why is he not being started more? And he ended the season at QB8. Was Bo Nix setting the world on fire? No, but he was another guy. I think he was averaging like 7 points per game with
yeah.
his legs. Those points for quarterbacks are huge. Like at this point, I only want quarterbacks that run. Like that's it.
And we don't, and nobody really learns from like the Justin Fields stuff where it literally, and the early Jalen Hurts, where it literally does not matter what you do with your arm. As long as you're providing value with your legs, anything that you get on top of that is cherry on top. You
Yep.
could have 86 rushing yards and a touchdown, and then you could throw for like 112 yards and a touchdown, and you're quarterback 3. Like
Yep.
that's what you get from a rushing quarterback. And I get it. Some of that's variance too, but I mean, we're talking what Jackson Dart has 4 games out of the last 6 with 50 yards rushing or more. Like
He scored
that's
a
worth
rushing
something.
touchdown in 5 of 6. That's
Yeah.
wild. Like that's 6 points every basically week that you can just go ahead and throw down plus his rushing yards.
Right. And for the most part, he's taking care of the ball too.
Mm-hmm.
10 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. He's only lost 1 fumble on the season. Like for a young quarterback on a team that we don't really think much about, that's very interesting. So definitely Jackson Dart is a guy to file away or just pick up just completely. You should be out there, I would say. If I had to guess, because I don't have it in front of me, but I'd probably say 75% of leagues he's probably available in. So, the Giants have kind of that stink. They're like the scarlet letter where, the perception of them is like bad team. I don't want to ever think about them. But it is what it is. Let's go more to your neck of the woods here. Because I don't know if you heard about this, but Drake London is pretty good. Actually not more than pretty good. He's a freakazoid. 3 touchdowns. Look, on a day in my guillotine league, my Reddit versus the world, where you have 9 Redditors and 9 fantasy analysts, including guys like Danny Kelly, obviously myself, Nate Polo, guys like that. Jonathan Taylor had a bad game, but Drake London saved my ass. So look, 3 touchdowns. We know the Atlanta offense is very condensed with their personnel. It's always going to be Bijan, but it's, more than likely going to be Drake London. 14 targets, 9 for 118, 3 touchdowns, 164 air yards. He was Matt Harmon's wide receiver 1 going into the season over Jamar Chase, over Puka, over Jefferson, over Neighbors, over all these guys. And we're starting to see like he is using his height probably more than any of these top end wide receivers are. Like he's just straight up a power forward boxing dudes out to get contested catches. And Darnell Mooney has not been a thing. 1 target on 100% route participation. I would say Kyle Pitts is the second the second target here.
Or Bijan. Like they're
or
because they're I
Bijan,
think
either way,
about the same target share.
but it certainly ain't Mooney. So yeah, I mean, if you're really paying attention, this is something we really should have been on a lot more with Drake London being such a value at the end of the first, into the second round. But yeah, you got to love what you're getting out of Drake London.
Yeah, I mean, it was again, having quarterbacks matter when you're a wide receiver. And London was really good his first 2 years, despite Desmond Ridder, Marcus Mariota, and
Yeah.
Taylor Heineke throwing him the ball. And now that he's had Penix, you look at what he did down the stretch last year with him. And then this year, he got banged up early too. He's another one of those guys that, like, I kind of take his first 4 or 5 weeks with a grain of salt. Like the Buffalo game, he admitted was the first one he felt really healthy since getting kind of dinged up in the Tampa Bay game for the opener. But what I love more than anything, because it's drove me crazy, is his target share when Mooney is there and is not there has been just hugely different, right? Like he's seeing like 35% target share without Mooney. And then like in the first 3 games this year with Mooney, 19% target share, 18.6, 18.4. There's no reason to be throwing Drake London the ball that little. They finally figured it out today. Even with Christian Gonzalez and, Patriots, a good defense, 37.8% target share. That needs to be our offense. Like we've seen this with the Rams, and that's where Zach Robinson comes from, who's probably the least popular person in Atlanta right now. But I mean, they got to get him the ball. And one thing I love about London is he's so good at the point of attack, right? Like when Penix can really throw the ball up, and he's learned that. And he said that. He said that coming out of training camp. He goes, I've learned that if I throw the ball up, more than likely London is going to come down with it. That one-handed catch he made in the corner of the end zone was as good as you'll ever see. Because not only did he one-handed it, for just a second, he secured it to where he could get a little bit more into it, and then took that other hand off of it and, kind of rolled over. It was a heartbreaking loss, though, again. And I just, this is why I have been on the side of we made a huge mistake drafting Bijan Robinson and not taking Jalen Carter. And I still stand by it. Bijan is like one of the best backs in the league, but we've seen it. He's so boom or bust because he's so dependent on explosive plays. If he doesn't have those explosive runs, he is not the kind of back that's going to get 3, 4, 5 yards every carry. And when we can't bust those big runs, that's why we have a lot of 3 and outs, and we're putting a young quarterback in a lot of 2nd and 3rd and longs. And it's not been a good recipe. I don't know what's going to happen the rest of the season, but I don't have a lot of confidence because they've lost already 3 games they should have won. They had what we thought was the most puzzling loss versus Carolina earlier this year. Then they had the most embarrassing loss, of my fandom. Like losing to the Dolphins at home. I don't care if me and you were quarterback, Kevin. Like that's embarrassing. Like that. Like you got to do better. So, but I think you can feel very secure. London is a top 5 receiver last season. I know Matt Harmon had him at 1. I said that I thought he'd be a top 5 wide receiver this year, and caught some flack early because he struggled. But now people that, I was telling to draft London are texting me going, thanks for, talking me into drafting London. So I hope it's going to be that way the rest of the year.
Yeah. And I did notice, a couple of those, I think 2 of those touchdowns, they were scheming stuff away from Christian Gonzalez as well, which that's a credit to certainly wanting to, because you don't typically see that. Sometimes teams will just put, a guy on an island and just let him kind of eat it up and just take the other half of the field. The Titans will throw out Van Jefferson and say, good luck. You get to handle that for, 60 minutes, let me know how that works out for you. But yes, good offenses, or at least competent ones, scheme your best players away from guys like that. You want to put guys, in motion. You want to kind of divert some of that defensive attention away from Drake London. And that's clearly, he did some stuff against Christian Gonzalez as well. Like, I do think we overrate or underrate the offenses, talking about some of these wide receivers. Oh, they're going up against Pat Surtain. They're going up against, this lockdown corner. Well, the offensive players are pretty damn good too, and they know the play. So why don't we talk about that more when, Mike Evans is going to get shut down by Marshawn Lattimore? You don't think Mike Evans is the Hall of Fame wide receiver? I mean, granted, that was probably not a great example to use because Mike Evans has had, his lunch money taken by Marshawn Lattimore his entire career. But like guys like that, we talk about, Drake London wanting to take that next step to being possibly a 1st-round guy next season. And I think he can be. I think it's pretty packed as far as like those 1st-round wide receivers, but he's certainly in that conversation. So, and especially with Atlanta being so condensed, I think definitely helps. Obviously, London is on the field that they don't use like very rarely anybody else. And while we're talking about Atlanta, though, let's talk about Kyle Pitts, because obviously Kyle Pitts is not who we thought he was going to be. Obviously, he had the rookie season.
You mean the guy drafted above Micah Parsons, Patrick Surtain, Penei Sewell?
Yes, that guy.
That guy, Jamar Chase.
Yeah, that guy. But yeah, I mean, basically, I know it stinks, but we're probably not going to get yards after the catch, intermediate crossers, Kyle Pitts. But it feels like we're getting dare I say, Jared Cook, Kyle Pitts, which I think still, I mean, we talk about Kyle Pitts being the second like wide receiver / tight end on this team in terms of like target hierarchy, certainly over Mooney. I mean, that's not a bad place to be at, being the Jared Cook of the offense, because it sucks that he's not going to be able to use his athleticism that, you know, we thought we were getting when you drafted him in the top 10. But like this version of Kyle Pitts in the offense, when they run so much 12 personnel, I mean, it's nothing but good for Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, they've moved him around the field. He's lining up as a receiver so much more, which is something that why it took this long for anybody on the Falcons coaching staff to figure out. He's not an inline tight end. Like, that's not what he does. The other thing that to me has been really impressive is his hands. Like, he has made a lot of catches this year that I feel like in past years he wouldn't make. And, you know, again, more than anything is just Penix has said from the beginning of the year, I need to get him the ball. And unlike other quarterbacks who have said that in the Kyle Pitts tenure, he's actually doing that. And, you know, Pitts is very obviously confident in Penix, and Penix can throw it. And the only thing I hate is it's just typical, right? Like, he's having his best season in 4 years, and he's going to be of course, a free agent. So, you know, he's going to play just well enough to where we got to pay him a little bit more money than we would have if we had to sign him last year.
Yeah, or Arthur Smith signs him to the Steelers,
Right.
and you know he's going to be when Mike Tomlin gets fired and the Roonies promote Arthur Smith. We get to go through that entire
It'll be like
rigmarole.
Thanos, except instead of rings, he's collecting tight ends.
Pretty much. I mean, Kyle Pitts would be the fifth. I mean, if we're looking at Freiermuth, Jonnu Smith, Darnell Washington, Connor Hayward, I mean, look, one hand to rule them all. That's where we're at with Kyle Pitts. But let's stay with the tight ends here, because you know, we actually have, this is actually a tight end heavy show. Aronde Gadsden may have claimed another victim. And that victim's name, you know, we already told the family. We can release it to the public. His name is Keenan Allen. Look, the last few weeks, he's gone and knocked on the door, the whole Grim Reaper meme of he knocks on Tyler Conklin's door and sends him to 0. He knocked on Will Dissly's door and sent him to 0. We thought the path of destruction was over, but little do we know, we got the sequel coming out. It came out yesterday, and Keenan Allen got sent to 54% routes. And there was no injury to speak of. I don't know if this is going to be a thing, but I do think it's very interesting to see that Aronde Gadsden is taking so much of the market share. He's been playing in the slot quite a bit. I know Keenan Allen has been like a deep threat in terms of like his ADOTs lately, and it's kind of weird. And I know they want to get Trey Harris on the field as well, but I mean, the calls are coming from inside the house here. We've seen Aronde Gadsden erase people in his own position. Is he now crossing the line over to wide receivers? He is a former wide receiver from Syracuse. You know, just the entire Aronde Gadsden path to fantasy relevancy has been very interesting to watch, and to see him kind of come up from literally nothing to 20% snaps to 40, and now erasing guys, and now he's just a vital part of the offense. Like, I know the Chargers are like a top 4 or 5 PROE team this season, and Aronde Gadsden just feels like he's here to stay, and that he's doesn't have. I don't think it's a matter of if he has to compete with Ladd McConkey and Quentin Johnson, all these other guys for targets. I mean, I think those guys are almost competing with him at this point.
Yeah, the two things that to me have changed about the Chargers passing game, and I think to the better over the last month, is they're throwing it to Ladd and Gadsden. I have no idea. It was almost like that punt return that got called back for Ladd. What was that, like week 3 or 4, when they really were not even targeting him? They remembered, oh yeah, he's probably our best player after he gets the ball in his hand, right? Like on a pass. So maybe we should throw it to him a little bit more. But I think it's fitting that Gadsden's a Charger, because he reminds me a lot of Antonio Gates. Like, he really does. Like, he can do a lot of the same things. He's a nightmare matchup, and he is fast, man. Like, on the play where I thought actually he was going to score, he did end up getting caught, I think, like at the 3 or 4. But Duke can move. He's got good hands, and they're going to need these guys to continue to get open quickly, because if Alt ends up missing time, he left with the ankle strain that, or I think it was an ankle deal. Chargers are 4-0 when he plays the entire game, and 2-3 when he doesn't. Herbert has a QBR of 80 with Alt on the field, 56 without him. He is so important, especially with them having lost Slater for the year. If they have Alt, I think the Chargers will continue to contend, and the offense is going to be really good. And the other good thing for Gadsden, and even like idiots like me that set Quentin Johnson this week after the last 2 weeks, and of course, he has a good game. I'm just like, I hate this dude. He's on my team, and I hate him. But I think that they're going to continue to throw it. Chargers, I think, are now first or second in pass attempts per game. And again, they're going to get Hampton back eventually. I think that offense is only going to continue to get better. He's going to be a big part of it.
Yeah, like that's the thing, is that we've overreacted wildly to the things that have happened in this offense, where it was the first couple weeks of the season, it was Quentin Johnson could not be stopped. And then
Ladd was a bust, right? Like
Ladd was a zero
last year. Yeah.
Yeah. And then now Ladd McConkey, I mean, he's clearly their best ball in hand wide receiver. And then now we're starting to see him much more involved in the offense. And this kind of game against Tennessee, where they were really like actually being challenged by them, which was, I think if Tennessee's offense wasn't such a dumpster fire, we'd be talking a little bit more about Tennessee being like a solid defense, but they're on the field so much that it doesn't help anything. Like it is what it is. But yeah, Gadsden has been an absolute focal point. And we're talking about a former wide receiver. His dad played in the NFL in the 90s for the Dolphins. And also, who is it? I believe it's Andy Bischoff was the tight ends coach. Well, is the tight ends coach for the Chargers now, but was the tight ends coach for the 2015 Ravens, who ended up signing a wide receiver named Darren Waller, who he helped, was in that room with him and helped kind of bring him to transition over to the tight end position. So there's some precedent to that. And it's possible that we could have another one of those hits on our hands with Gadsden, who is basically Juwan Johnson. It's the exact profile that we want. We want former wide receivers. We want guys that he doesn't have to block, but he's willing to do it. And that's why Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh were talking him up so much in training camp, is that not only did he bulk up, he went from like 217 pounds to he's almost at 250 now, but he's kept all of his speed, which is obviously the most important thing in all of that you can add bulk and then still keep, because I think he has a 4.5 40.
Don't you think the tight ends with size and speed like that, I think they're the toughest guys in the NFL to actually cover. Like that there's just like really nobody, maybe a handful of corners that can actually cover, a healthy Fred Warner, etc. Yeah. But your McBrides and Bowers and Gadsden's, like these guys, they're massive and they're so quick. And they're not lining up in traditional places. I think it's just a nightmare for defenses.
Yeah, when the only matchups that I really look at are obviously Fred Warner was big. Him going down was massive for, anybody that obviously they played Tampa Bay that week. And that was the one thing. Do I want to start Kate out? No, Fred Warner is going to be on him, and good luck with that. But obviously Matt Milano is another one. Demario Davis has been one for such a long time in terms of covering tight ends. But yeah, not only does it take a guy, a tight end to have, the size and speed and all that, but you also have need to scheme to kind of complement that. And there's not a lot of schemes out there that and coaching that are willing to put in resources to feature these guys. Like, I think I'm actually shocked that a Greg Roman offense in 2025 has kind of cultivated, because look, Greg Roman offense, we talk about, obviously with his time with Baltimore and, going back to Harbaugh with the 49ers and how those offenses ran. And yeah, this is a complete tonal shift from what we've expected from a Greg Roman offense. And I'm glad it took him 15 years to get to, the current generation of the NFL, and
or maybe the right quarterback, right? Because I know we give him crap for with Lamar. Lamar was not accurate like he is now as a thrower. He has improved every year. And at the time, I think that was the smartest way for the Ravens to move the ball, right? Was to just really use his, dual threat capabilities. So also, I think the offensive line, he's really adjusted. If you look at like all the A dots outside of Keenan Allen, which is weird, are actually coming down. You can tell that they're just trying to, get Herbert to get the ball out of his hand as quickly as possible. And they need to, because man, there was a couple week stretch there he was just getting murdered. And you've got to protect a franchise quarterback like Herbert.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, Gadsden is, and I'm wearing not wearing the Syracuse hat just for Gadsden. Syracuse does open up their college basketball season tonight against Binghamton at the I keep wanting to call it the Carrier Dome, the JMS Wireless Dome. I will never call it that. That's like calling the Sears Tower and all that, whatever they call it there in Chicago. One more, I do want to ask this question though. Of all the players that are rumored in trade deadline deals, we've heard about the Chris Olaves, and we've heard about the Rashid Shaheeds and Tony Pollards, even Breece Hall. Is there a guy on this list, or even someone that's not on it, that who has the best chance of getting actually dealt? Because we talk a lot about all these guys, getting traded, and rarely does it ever happen. But is there a chance that any of these guys, for fantasy purposes, can go to a new locale and be at least decently relevant, or at least a game changer for their teams? We've heard a lot about the Breece Hall, the Kansas City stuff. Like, what's your read on like any of those guys, or any, another guy that we don't have listed?
I mean, I don't really trust Hall or Pollard. I know that they've been kind of in difficult situations, but I think so much of running, we're seeing that in Chicago yet again, is scheme, because I know they upped the offensive line, but you look at like the Lions yards before contact last year, and now the Bears are a team that went from like near the bottom to the top. Same thing with Liam Cohen and the Jags, with Tampa and the Jaguars. But those two receivers, like Chris Olave and Shaheed, I think if Seattle or New England trade for those guys with their quarterback's ability to throw the ball down the field, giving them an elite weapon that, actually has the burner ability. I mean, Drake May is feeding families with Demario Douglas, right? Like right now being his down the field target.
Right.
Do you give him Olave or Shaheed, who actually have the speed and ability to really get open consistently downfield? Or I think, is Darnold still completing like 80% of his deep balls? It was some absurd number, I know, 2 weeks ago.
He's sick. It's around there.
So, I mean, that's really the two that I would like to see. And I also feel bad for them. Again, it's kind of like what I was talking about with Drake London. Like, I feel bad for these talented receivers, because I think Olave is really good. And he's been trapped in QB purgatory, very similar to what, Drake London was until kind of Penix arrived.
Yeah, Chris Olave has been like based on his utilization, he's been like NFC Cortland Sutton. Like, I know they're clearly different players, but like you can bank his targets. Like, you can set your watch to him. We're talking about how many games? One's 6 in 9 games with double-digit targets. Already up to 83 on the season, by the way, on pace for like 170. So good luck with that. But yeah, he would definitely fit in a place like, Seattle. I mean, Rashid Shaheed in Seattle would kind of evoke memories of like very early Tyler Lockett. Like, because remember, Tyler Lockett was a deep threat for like the first 3-4 years of his career.
And Darnell White Wilson could throw that moonball shot over the top.
Exactly. And then they could probably scheme up some stuff with Kubiak in space. Obviously they have some familiarity there too, because Kubiak was in New Orleans. But yeah, I feel like that could be a good spot. Breece Hall. I mean, I still have some hope for Breece Hall in terms of what he can do in terms of the running game and being a
profile was there with like Henry and Barkley and them. Like, that's kind of the athletic measurements. The group of players I remember coming into the draft that, he fit along with. And he's, again, another guy that's been stuck behind just awful offenses and mediocre offensive lines.
And get him in Kansas City, though. Like, I don't think that will happen. I think that's like the dream of all dreams. We all have the hopium for something like that, a massive splash. And, as we talk about it now, it'll probably happen in an hour. And we all look like, I mean, I look like an idiot most times anyway, but, that'll certainly be a nice little cherry on top of that Sunday. But, and then Tony Pollard. I'm not super convinced. I don't know why teams love to hold these guys. I mean, it's probably compensatory picks, like is why teams hold on to those guys so they can at least get a pick based on like the snap percentage and all that and how much of their teams generate offense they provide. I understand that, but I mean, if I could get something, I mean, Jacoby Myers is another guy where I know the Raiders want to get, they probably want to deal him, but they don't want to like give him away. I think that they were asking for like a second round pick or a third round pick. And at this stage, nobody's going to pay that,
Well, I mean, that one, the Eagles are getting, for what they get him for a third rounder.
Yeah.
I mean,
do the Bills need another Josh Palmer? I'm not sure, but I don't think they want to pay another third round pick for him, for Myers. But yeah, we'll see what happens with this trade deadline. A lot of defensive players like Jalen Phillips just got traded to the Eagles. Obviously, John Mechie is on the move. He got traded to the Jets and that whole thing. But we haven't gotten a lot of like real fantasy goodness out of like some of these trades. I guess fine. I guess we got to talk about Parker Washington. The Parker Washington Industrial Complex is forcing us to talk about him. Like I've resisted for so long with Parker Washington wanting to be a thing, and now I think it's to the point where because Brian Thomas had an ankle injury and left the game, they've had so many injuries. De'Ami Brown had a concussion, so obviously add that with Travis Hunter hitting IR, and you're really bare bones in terms of the wide receivers. Tim Patrick was out, just wasn't inactive for this game. So Brenton Strange has been out for weeks with a quad injury. I mean, it stinks for
supposed to come back, I think, in 2 weeks, right? Is that what I think I read?
Yeah, that's if that's the minimum timeline there. But yeah, I think at this point, Parker Washington is like almost all we have left if we want to roster a Jaguars pass catcher. But at least, 19 targets in 2 games is nothing to shake a stick at. 8 for 90, 90% routes. Like he feels fine, but obviously the floor and the ceiling are, pretty well. No, I think they're pretty wide apart because I think there's definite floor with the Jacksonville offense in terms of they can crater. But I think Parker Washington has kind of risen above that a little bit.
I just, it's, everybody keeps asking, what happened with BTJ. Trevor Lawrence, like he is completing 32% of his deep passes. It's 27th among quarterbacks. Like that's the issue, right? Like you have Brian Thomas running all these rails down the field and the quarterback who can't get him the ball. And I mean, Parker Washington, I think he had the lowest ADOT so far this season of the 3. And that was why I was saying, like, with the Hunter injury, because he was obviously ramping up his usage. That was the guy I was like, go pick him up, especially in PPR formats. You'll probably get, a minimum of 8 to 11 points most weeks. And I mean, don't forget they were playing the Raiders. It's just like Colston Loveland. I think playing the Bengals right now needs to come with a caveat of they're playing the Bengals, who have given up over 1,000 total yards to the Jets and the Bears in just the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, it was impressive, but like that touchdown, everybody's like, what a run. It's like, how did he not get tackled? That was like one of the worst defensive like attempts at a tackle I've ever seen in my life in that situation where the game's on the line.
Yeah. Yeah, but and then looking at Parker, like at Houston next week against the Chargers at home, like it gets a little bit easier because you get at Arizona, at Tennessee, but like in the short term, like you can probably count on one hand, maybe on one hand, a couple fingers, like guys you'd rather have because it's a pretty lean waiver wire week. You're probably picking up Christian Watson. If Troy Franklin's out there for some reason, probably picking him up. But I think Parker Washington is certainly worth an ad. And then, we'll wrap it up here talking about tonight's Monday Night Football game, Arizona at Dallas. Obviously, this is going to be 53.5 over under right now. It's going to be offenses everywhere. Obviously, all your Dallas guys, and then you're hoping for Jacoby Brissett to continue to do what he's supposed to do and target Trey McBride. Marvin Harrison Sr. came out and said, I'm not watching Cardinals football. You can quote me on that.
Wow.
So look, anytime you can rid yourself of watching Cardinals football outside of Trey McBride so you don't have to watch NFC Rashad Bateman, I think you're okay with that from like an entertainment perspective. But Any like inklings, reads, whether it's DFS or whether it's showdown or anything like that from this game tonight?
Yeah, you got to play McBride as your captain. I mean, it's insane. 5 starts with Kyler Murray, 29 receptions, 276 yards, a touchdown. 2 starts with Jacoby Brissett, 18 receptions, 146 yards, and 3 touchdowns. It's kind of like with Flacco and Cincy. It's like Brissett understands the assignment, just like Flacco does. Like, just look, we're not a great team. Just throw it as much as you can to the one elite, guy, or in Cincy, 2 elite guys that we have. So I trust them, and I also think the Cowboys are going to feast. So like I would probably play McBride, maybe I don't know, a
Flop
kicker or
leg
something.
spot for Ferguson.
Yeah, dude, he is. You want to talk about a guy that has fed families this year? Like I didn't see this coming. Like with them getting Pickens, I assumed that both of those guys would take so much of it, and they have in terms of target share. But Ferguson is just so good with his targets. Like I mean, it's been unreal. And then we saw if one of those guys gets banged up or misses time, Ferguson's like arguably like top 3 tight end.
Yeah, I mean, this feels like I made the parallel to the Cowboys offense in terms of like Lamb, Pickens, and Ferguson being like Brown, Smith, and Goddard with Philadelphia, except you're adding exponentially more passing volume to it. And Dak Prescott's been awesome. Obviously, you had that kind of hiccup last week, but you get your hiccups at Denver. It is what it is. But yeah, but just this offense feels so, and you don't have to worry about like any of the ancillary. Like you could play a Turpin, I guess, but it doesn't feel great. But you have so many choices with the Cowboys, and then you have your McBride. If you're feeling froggy enough to play Harrison, like he feels okay too.
Which
But
back do you like tonight for the Cardinals?
Van Knight gets in the end zone, maybe. That's how I feel. I know they did some weird stuff. They released Michael Carter and then picked him back up on the practice squad. So
I don't understand that stuff. Yeah.
That's Mickey Loomis level, cap management or, roster management, however you want to do that. But yeah, probably a bad night guy, although it does not feel great. He's probably you got to hope he gets a short touchdown and 60
Very
total
possible
yards.
versus Dallas, though. We know that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, man. I know you got to get out of here, but I appreciate you hopping on such short notice with me because I know.
Dude, anytime I can talk ball with you, Kev.
Hell yeah, man.
It's
Let us
humanly
know.
possible, I'm there.
Yeah, man. I definitely appreciate it. Let us know. Obviously, I know we can find you on Optimus here with the Friday Vibe show. With Nate and with Evan as well, because I know you've done that with him the last couple of weeks. But other than that, let us know where we can find the things you're doing.
Yeah, man. All my other stuff is on Fantasy Six Pack. Me and Kasem have a show. We usually record Tuesday nights, the 12 must-know stats you need to know from the previous week. I have a lot of fun with that. Obviously, love Casey. And then Fridays I have both the show with either Nate or Evan here, and then me and Joe Matz, who are doing ridiculously our 6th year of doing a DraftKings cash game show, 9 p.m. on Fantasy Six Pack. And then I have 2 articles, or technically a cheat sheet and an article that I put out each week. The cheat sheet is just my favorite cash game plays. The articles, I do a main slate preview where I give, the over-under line, the spread, defensive rankings for both teams versus positions, which I know sometimes it's a pain going back and forth trying to figure out, okay, where does this team rank? And then give basically the stats and stuff that I think you should know for that matchup, what players I'm targeting, etc.
Awesome, man. Love all that. Definitely check that stuff out. Check out Keith Flemming at Keith Flemming on Twitter. Also, is it Keith Flemming DFS on Blue Sky? Is that the handle?
I think that's right. Or maybe, yeah, it is. Sorry.
Okay, I thought so. I thought, yeah, at Keith Flemming DFS on Blue Sky as well. We're gonna get out of here so Keith can get out of here. Kevin Tompkins here with Keith Flemming. Clock management. We'll see you the same bat time, same bat channel.